Hello peoples of the internet and welcome to week 11 of Industrial Rallycross. Today we have a ETK K series. This is the KC6TX, so it's all-wheel drive and it has quite a bit of power. You'll also see the ESC and traction control lights are on, but that actually means they're off. Slightly weird way of doing things, but it works. Who am I to complain? So we're going to hopefully get around this course, floor it. Oh dear. Oh dear. Thankfully, I think I just got the rear bumper, so other than minor aerodynamic changes, we should be just fine for actual... Oh dear. I say we're just going to be fine, not quite, although I did man quite a good drift round there. Oh dearie dear. Ah, the joys of having electronic stability off. Yeah, the tyres on this are not the best. They're a bit better on the dirt because they are more overall road-focused tyres, but they're not perfect, and this is surprisingly snappy. Have I destroyed the front drive shaft or something? Right, I am managing it. It's actually a surprising amount of fun in a weird way. Well, trying to keep this monster of a car under control. Oh dear. I'll have to hope to get better on my third lap because this really isn't doing well for me. Or maybe so it feels, because I may be doing incredibly well, but just not feeling it. Yes, I was going slow there instead of trying to power out. I ultimately decided that was better. No, flooring it through there. I've broken my rear wheel axle. I'm a bit doomed, but hey, I didn't spin it, so that's something. Yeah, the rear left has had all kinds of nightmares going on in this one. ETKs, the modern ones at least, don't tend to be the most, let's say, resilient vehicles in the world either. Although I have somewhat improved the handling by destroying the rear left wheel axle, it can't really go crazy with power now. It's a lot more controllable. Also, I'll mention I don't like these modern ETKs, if I've not already. And we are getting there at surprising speed. Wow, despite a broken wheel axle, that's our fastest lap. Now, it must be said, I'm actually quite disappointed in this car. Yes, it has a lot of substance to it. There's just a lot of car here compared to, I don't know, the old Corolla, which, speaking of that, it's beaten it. As in, the Corolla has beaten this ETK sports car. That's why I'm not so impressed by it. A modern sports car, and yes, it had a broken wheel axle, but even when it didn't, it couldn't set a great time, because there's just not the same level of simplicity to this. You can't build it in the same way. I mean, look at the engine bay alone, you'll see. I think we've got quad cam engine stuff on here. It's not exactly simple. And they've covered it with plastic, so they don't even want you to access it and do things to it yourself. It's really why I don't like modern cars. And I can really hope the next modern car we have somehow does better than this. From one extreme to the other, here we have a Roma, only the engine is similar to the ETK in some ways. It's a 30 valve inline 6, so quite a complicated power plant here. It also has the 6-speed waste transmission, since I decided that would be more appropriate. It does just have better gearing for this engine. I did briefly try it with a 5-speed on my laptop and it just didn't feel geared correctly. As it wouldn't. I mean, we've more or less doubled the power of this vehicle. Probably more even than that, so you would expect it. Now, the tyres are still off a lesser powered vehicle. It's basically an engine swap. And the car in general is simple. It's just got a more complicated engine. So this should be a pretty good combination. It's got a potent modern engine combined with a simple older chassis, and it certainly feels good. It's definitely on the oversteery side, but it's more controlled than the ETK, probably partially thanks to the visibility. We do get good visibility, and I believe this is on off-road tyres, which makes it good through the dirt. You'd think Sport, they would give it something more road-like, but again, I messed with a hopper and it actually tipped over when I put some real race tyres on it, so it's probably not a good idea. And we are sliding around, but it's doing okay. And just glanced at the time quickly there. I probably shouldn't have, but it's quicker than the ETK was. I've probably ruined my time though, just trying to look at the time. Crazy predicament we've got going there, and I've got an interesting slide through here. Just about managed to recover it. And flooring it through this dirt section, I did not get good through there. Second lap was good at least. and I can try and get it through here. I've not damaged it though by the feel of things. Probably should have broke a bit later. Okay, so here we have our hopper, and it's done me proud, unlike the ETK. I don't believe there's a new model for the engine, but I'll show you anyway. It's a fairly similar size to the standard one, so it shouldn't make that much difference. And this is a rugged bonnet. Again, why I don't like modern cars, they make stuff out of all thin aluminium. This is solid metal. Steel even. And I've turned my indicator on. There's A inline 6. And it's a very, very good surprise here. It's come just below a Satsuma Rotary 2 Turbo and a H25 extended Vanster passenger. And I would say, I say just below, rather, but it's not just below. It actually feels quite a nice gap between the Vanster and the ETK I-Series base. And speaking of that, it reminds me of the I-Series ttSport Evolution. Surprisingly, it was kind of oversteery, kind of slippery, but at the same time, a very nice vehicle to drive, just due to the ability to control the power. And it did come above the Burnside Special V8 as well. So, a fair result for this. Not the quickest in the world, but it's an Ibishu hopper. I mean, what do you expect from this? All in all, I'm happy. On to the next vehicle. Next up, we have a Mk2 Pessima from the 90s. This is the 2.7 LX Sport. It's not an all-wheel drive or anything crazy, it is just a front-wheel drive model. A front-wheel drive kind of sporty saloon, so it's not on the same level as, say, a BMW M3. The engine will be far less powerful than that, but it's not meant to be. It's kind of like a Ford, Toyota level vehicle, so that's why. Although it is feeling very nice here, like the V6 Legrand looks I did. This has got sport suspension though, so it's going to be firmer. Being well a sport, I did look at the all-wheel drive. I believe it was an all-wheel drive model fairly similar to this, but it was a lot heavier. And I didn't think it would need it, because these handle quite well as they are with front-wheel drive. You'll see here I'm just cutting through the corners really nicely. Like, this vehicle has absolutely no problem with it. It's a remarkably well sorted car. Maybe it could do with all-wheel steer, but to be entirely honest, I don't feel it needs it. Just flooring it through here, it doesn't really like the dirt, but it gets through it quite nicely. And oh dear, I've messed that up quite badly, but the alternative was hitting the wall, and I didn't want to do that. Having a bit of a slide here. I think I've thrown this lap away already, but it's feeling better than the second lap with that goofy kind of corner I took. You'll see here though, it's my stupidity. The vehicle is lovely to drive, for lack of a better word. It could probably even handle a bit more power, maybe a supercharger, because it just feels underworked as it is. It feels like it could do more than it is doing right now, and I've got a really nice angle into here. Hopefully I can turn it into a good lap time. And it's worse than the second lap. So, the second lap was the quickest, but the second lap was far from bad. I mean, this is just a lovely car to drive. Maybe not the very prettiest car in the world, but the way it drives, it's just beautiful. You wouldn't think by looking at it, but this is probably one of the nicest cars I've driven in the entire series. Just grip immediately and no wheel spin really. Maybe a tiny amount of wheel spin, but no major problems with wheel spin. Now, it did come 0.101 seconds above the Ibishu hopper we just had before this, and we're noticing the recurring kind of idea. When I have a theme, cars tend to come quite closely. Look at how I've wrecked that door. I'm getting distracted really. You'll see, the interior isn't the nicest in the world again, but we do have nice skinny pillars, which always aids visibility, and it's just the overall mechanical simplicity of this thing. Compared to the ETK, that was very reliant on its electronics. This is just all mechanical grip, and it's all the better because of it. And as I say, it's underworked. The Pessima touring car proves that it can handle more power, and it can handle it quite well. So, all in all, a vehicle I'm very content with, even if it's not the very quickest on the leaderboard. Next up, we have the Ibishu Covet VT6 all-wheel drive. Yes, as the name entails, this is a all-wheel drive Covet with a V6. Not what you would expect, but hey, it's what I'm using. Oof, oh dear. Hopefully I've not wrecked it there. Yeah, I think it's just front bodywork, maybe the suspension, and I've thrown this lap away already. Yeah, I need to be careful. The brakes are not up to the job on this. Honestly, I expected this to be really capable, but the brakes are not doing their job. I've lost the front bumper now. At least there's no chance that's getting entangled. I don't know why. The brakes just feel dreadful. Like, they just don't want to work at all. I'm really, really applying them, but they don't want to do anything. It's an amazement I've not wrecked a car harder than I have. I think I can use this, I just have to respect the brakes I use. Either that, or it's just so quick I don't realise it. But I'm pretty sure the brakes aren't that great. I've driven the Mad Covet, that's not very good on the brakes. It feels almost like that, although nothing could be anywhere near as bad. It does feel like it's getting better as the brakes warm up. It's strange, but it feels like that's what's occurring with the overall car. And, I mean, I'm just thankful I've not wrecked it more than I have, because if I had, it wouldn't be drivable. It's driving almost perfectly now, regardless of the look, and I've probably thrown it away there. I've got a decent second lap at least. The brakes just are not up to the job of track work. They're probably not even up to the job of everyday vehicles. I mean, I've driven base models which feel like they stop better than this. The all-wheel drive wasn't supposed to have that much weight over front-wheel drive. I don't know, maybe it has and they've not stated it or something. It feels like my radiator's broke, or it looks like my radiator's broke. Nonetheless, it's a quick time. Very quick. Okay, so this vehicle has done remarkably well, actually. If we just look down, we'll see it's done a 30.824 time. Got there eventually. And all in all, this is a remarkable thing for how, I guess, it's quick. It's just above a ETK I Series ttSport Evolution by, well, less than 0.1 of a second, but it's still a victory that we can claim. And it's below, by a few tenths of a second, a Covet Monster, which was front-wheel drive, yes, but that was, well, a monster, for lack of a better word. So to compete with something that crazy, that monstrously quick, with just, I don't know, a V6 and all-wheel drive, that's a remarkable achievement. If we just zoom in on this V6 though, because it does actually have a model, it's very, very tightly squeezed in there. I'm amazed you can even fit a Pessima V6 in here. Like, look at how close it is to the top of the bonnet. It's crazy, it's like some contraption I would build in automation. But anyway, we have got to move on to the next vehicle, so that's what we'll do. And we finish off with a rear-wheel drive ETK. This particular model is the S-Series S6 ttSport GT. And it's rear-wheel drive, as I've probably mentioned, but I decided it would be interesting to see how this does. Now, the reason I didn't use an ETK K-Series, which was rear-wheel drive, was that couldn't handle the power through the rear wheels, but this felt like it could at least. You'll see it did get sliding there, but it could recover. And now this is what I'm calling brakes, though, on this vehicle. It actually slows the vehicle down, unlike the Covet VT6. I mean, surely, even if they were just regular brakes, it should have performance brakes, because, you know, brakes should be matched to the car, so a regular car wouldn't need crazy brakes where a performance car might. And this does like to get the tail out. I mean, it's not that it isn't gripping, it feels like it's gripping just fine, but the tail just wants to slide a bit. It's like, hey, let's have a happy slide. But I really don't want to have a happy slide because I'm trying to time trial it. And, oh dear, trying to happy slide again. The good thing is I can always rely on the brakes, at least. At least it's one of the few things you can rely on. Because everyone needs something in life to rely on, and it's not the engine. Yeah, we're going to go, hopefully, a bit quicker here. The I-Series I did, I think that was a little nicer than this, but ultimately neither are perfect. There are a lot of power through the rear wheels. I am feeling good though. Delicately through here. It's a lot nicer than that convertible Barst though, I'll say that now. It can actually use the power even if it struggles to do so. Oh dear, we've gone a bit wide there. I think I've messed up this one. It just feels like the turbo's kicking in there, really trying to spin the car. Again, maybe a bit too reliant on the electrical assists to make this thing drivable. More than it should be, I would say. We are somehow circumnavigating this track. It's like I'm driving a boat, probably because I am. Okay, so a slightly oversteery vehicle here, but still a kind of impressive time we've got from it. For something so technological, that is not bad. I mean, as I say, it feels like it's leaning on the assists too much, and they're not there in this case, annoyingly for the car. But still, it's at a capable time. It's just below the Satsuma Rotary 2 Turbo. So an old Satsuma, yes, but a tuned one, so it at least has some dignity in that. You'll also see the interior on this is much more premium. Look at those back seats. It's almost like a sofa back there. Much more premium than the K-Series. Yeah, that doesn't even have back seats, let's be honest. And as I say, it's not too bad. It's beaten the Hopper Sport Special and the Mk2 Pessima that we've also had today, but it has still been beaten by a Covet with brakes made of cheese, which is slightly embarrassing. But as I say, it's got some dignity left, unlike the K-Series, which for a sports car, a European sports car at that, was a bit of a failure, especially since it's been massively beaten by just the standard kind of luxury saloon from ETK. You'd expect the sports car to be faster, surely. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at this. Just show you how big the boot is. Probably not very, but anyway, I'll say goodbye until ready.